Why am I talking to a screen? I don't know these people. But I feel like I have a glimpse into their life, like The Truman Show.
I haven't seen it. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Concerning Gaming. I'm your host, Cade, here with the board game extraordinaire. Danny, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great.
That's awesome.
Doing great. Speaking of board game extraordinaire, I purchased some board games yesterday, Cade.
Oh, that's a great day.
It is a great day, and even played a couple of them.
Which ones? Give me a
So,
rundown.
well, just so happens,
You came prepared.
this is not the one I played, but I did buy it. Citadels. I think it would be good for our group. It plays up to 7.
Oh, wow,
And
that's great.
it's basically one of these things of get gold to play cards, but there's only 9 cards, and you draft them around the table, and each person plays them on their hand. And each card has a special ability, and it's kind of like Sushi Go. You can mix and match which card you want to put in there. So it's like a hint of One Night Ultimate Werewolf, I think, but then also like kind of a very small tableau builder. You're just trying to play 7 cards in front of you.
You getting me back?
And, you know, like, for example, you have a thief. So if you picked the thief and you play it, you could steal from another player. And then there's an assassin who could kill another player. But then if you pick, like, a high number card, which means you go later in turn order, maybe you get more gold. So it's like this. It's really neat. Seems like it'd be fun and easy
Good for
to
a big
teach.
group of people.
But the ones that we played yesterday, in case anyone would like to know, is the tried and true code names.
Great game.
I don't even want to talk about it. But we got just
know it.
one. We played this one at Brian's, a bootleg version one time. And we just added some additional things. And so we played with 10 people. It was really fun.
How do you play this one? I've never heard of it.
So this one, you basically have everyone's playing together. So all 10 of us are on the same team. And you draw a card.
I like that.
You like being on the same team?
I love team games.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So everyone's sitting around a table. One person draws a card, but they can't look at it. So they show everybody else the 5 words that are on it, and they have to pick 1 through 5. And so they pick one of these that they don't know what it is, but everyone at the table knows. So what they do is they all write a 1-word clue on their little tag that they have, and then I close my eyes. And then they all show each other the clue that they made. Any duplicates can't be shown to me.
Okay.
So if it's chocolate and people put cocoa and 4 people put cocoa, I can't see those. So now I only have 6 hints, or 5, I guess, because there were 9. So it's really neat, and I think it goes over well with a lot of players because everyone's trying to be esoteric and give like these sort of maybe clues. And then when some of those match, like for example, yesterday we had one and the clue was Mickey, and
So you don't want to put mouse, right?
you don't want to put mouse, so no one put it.
Yeah. Oh, God, yes.
Because you don't want to put mouse. You're like, well, if I put mouse, someone else is going to do it.
For sure, of course.
So I put hey, as in, hey, Mickey, you're so fine. And someone put hey.
Oh, my God.
It's like, what?
So I don't even know if I would have gotten that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, yeah, really, really cool game. And then this one I got from...
That is fun.
This one we got from Barnes & Noble as well.
Ooh, I love the box there.
Right?
That's
Should
neat.
we put it up here?
Yeah, cover Earth.
Yeah.
That'll be next week.
There we go. Wavelength. Team game. You got 2 teams, and essentially there's a dial that's randomly generated from left to right on this dial, and you draw a card that gives you what this side of the dial is and what this one is. So let's say hot all the way over here, cold all the way over here.
Okay.
I know where the point value is on there, and I need to come up with a word that would allow the team to guess if it's 60% towards hot or 40% towards cold. So for example, if it were all the way to the left, all the way on hot, I might say like the sun. But if it were like right here, I might say like coffee. You know? And so I flip it, I cover it, and I flip it, and they have a dial, and they have to try and guess where on the spectrum it is.
Is it always hot, cold, or can it be different?
No, you draw a
spectrums?
card every single time. One of them was unattractive animal and like sexy animal. And
All right.
so let me ask you, Cade.
Where would
I have my animal. What do you think is the sexiest animal?
Sexiest animal.
Would you like to hear mine?
I would love to hear yours.
I was thinking a panther.
That
Someone else.
has a majestic value to it. A nice, sleek black coat.
Oh, the shiny coat. Someone else said greyhound.
That's a good one.
I think from the neck down, their faces are ugly. But like that same thing, that short kind of shiny coat.
Sheen.
Yeah, it's sexy.
A Weimaraner. It's a puppy.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. They have a shiny green.
They're probably
like that.
crumb snatchers.
They probably are. Daniel.
I want to know what your sexy animal is before we move on. I'm holding you hostage now.
I was thinking of a Pokemon, actually, though. Is that okay?
Is it
Acceptable?
Ninetales?
It's Ninetales.
There's 700 Pokemon.
There's one answer.
700 Pokemon, one answer. Gosh, I don't know how we just got that right. Not rehearsed.
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah,
Today,
so fun.
Well, let me ask you this before we move on real quick.
Yeah.
What was the group's favorite game? Which one was most enjoyed?
Well, there was some wine involved, so I think just playing party games like that in a very non-competitive nature. The Just One is a co-op game, Codenames is team versus team, and Wavelength is team versus team. Everyone just kind of just has fun in general.
Yeah.
So at that point, you don't really care who wins. You stop keeping score. Everyone just wants a turn to kind of flex their knowledge muscles in Codenames, or they want to see if they can come up with something that is right on the money with Wavelength. I think all of them were a hit, honestly.
Well, that's good. I mean, we know Codenames is a great game. You got two more that you can throw into the mix for a good party game.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Good party night. Maybe we'll talk about favorite party games at some point.
Absolutely. But today, it's Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition.
Yes.
A game designed by Jacob Frixelius. These names, man, they
Good
keep
pronunciation.
getting me.
My goodness.
Nick Little and Sydney Engelstein. Of course, Jacob responsible for Terraforming Mars as well. And Nick and Sydney actually worked on Aeon's End as well, which is a game we played on our board game session last weekend, which was a lot of fun.
I had no idea until I saw your notes for this episode that they did that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of strange because that is completely different. It's like a different design space altogether. That is
For sure.
cooperative deck building, and this one is competitive tableau building. Maybe they share a little bit of the mostly card.
Yeah, there's a card building aspect to both.
So, but yeah, I didn't know that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. And the art, in this case, a whole bunch of people responsible for this one. So I just got first names here. I'm going to run through them. William, Sydney, Jacob, Garrett, Nick, Justine, Naomi, Andre, and Neo.
Are you about to say something about that name?
No, I wouldn't have anything to say. Do you have something to say about that name? He took some time off. He took some time off from defeating the Matrix to design this game.
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Gosh, I need to rewatch those.
You needed a big group of people to design this game because the project cards that you play in this game, there are hundreds. They're all unique, and they all have some fabulous art that go along with them. What did you say?
I think so. I think so we didn't mention it yet, but this is the follow-up to the original Terraforming Mars.
Correct.
And I think people had a lot to say about the artwork on that one. It didn't have a coherence to it, like some stock photography, some hand-drawn. So from card to card, it didn't even look like it fit in the same game, I think is what people would say. This one, they all look like it's been designed by these group of people, and they had an idea in mind when they were creating it. Yeah, these cards are pretty dang gorgeous, and they feel great, too.
I would agree, but give us a little rundown real quick, Daniel. What is Terraforming Mars? How does it play?
Yeah, so Terraforming Mars is essentially going to be a tableau building game. Quick snippet is that you are a corporation. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to draw some corporation cards, and the objective is you're trying to terraform the planet Mars. You're going to do that by raising heat, raising oxygen, and developing oceans, and that's going to increase... What'd I do?
You're essentially cosplaying as Elon Musk in this game. This is his fever dream. He's having a blast playing this.
Did he produce this? What's going on?
This is his IRL experience. It's all right, go ahead.
And then at the end of the game, you land a Tesla on it. So, yeah, you're going to be doing that. You're going to be increasing all three of those different ratings of Terraforming Mars. And when you do that, it's going to increase your Terraform rating. Then you're going to be playing a bunch of these cards, which are called projects.
Yep.
So your corporation is going to be doing projects to try and produce more or get more money and basically be more profitable. And by the time you've fully terraformed Mars, you're going to add up the points you've gotten from all the stuff that you've done to terraform Mars and all of the points that you may have gathered along the way while playing some project cards in front of you, and the one with the most points is going to win. Now, to do that, you're going to be going through 5 different phases, which, to boil it down, is essentially 3 main things. You're going to be drawing cards, you're going to be producing or taking actions, and then you're going to be playing cards in front of you. And that's really going to be the tableau building of this, but I would also call this an engine builder as well.
Oh, yes.
It ramps up throughout the game from beginning to end. At the beginning, you're not going to know what you can really do. You're getting, very crumb snatching amounts of money.
You really do.
But at the end of the game, you're producing stuff all over the place. You're
Yeah.
getting money, you're getting heat, you're getting plants, you're getting discounts because of your steel and titanium. So it ramps up real quick, and especially towards the tail end of the game. But yeah, that's essentially it.
Yeah, and the way you end the game, you have to increase the oxygen level and the temperature level on Mars to a value sustainable for human life, and as well create some oceans on Mars by flipping ocean tiles. Once all the ocean tiles have been flipped, the temperature and oxygen has reached a satisfactory level. That's the end. That's the last round.
That's the last round,
You
yeah.
tally up your points from your project cards and however far you've managed to make it on the TR track up to that point. And that's the end of the game. Usually the games end at around 50 TR for the
that was
winner in
around
our
it.
experience.
Yeah, 45 to 52, something like that
Yeah,
was
something
around the
like that.
range when we play it correctly.
Good point, Daniel. Because we struggled a little bit with this. There were some confusing elements to the game where we were adding TR to our score a little too excitedly. I
Yeah,
should
every
say.
time, this is not what you're supposed to do, kids, but every time we played a project card, and if it had points on it, we were adding it. You're
Yes.
supposed to do that at the end of the game. And the reason why that's a problem is because the TR tells you how much production you get for your money, or it's a facet of how much money you get
Your
whenever
MC,
you produce.
if you will.
Yeah, your MC, your
Mars credits.
my chemicals,
Your Martian cash.
your Miley Cyruses,
Good one. Your MC hammers. Your mega credits.
your main cheese.
They're called mega credits in the game, but I think we came up with 7 there off the top of the dome
That were better.
That were a little bit better, but hey, that's a personal opinion.
I like the symbol for it, though. It's got a little C.
That is nice. It is
Mm-hmm.
nice. So you can produce MC, you produce cards, you produce heat plants anytime you take the production phase. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the theme of this game, Daniel, is pretty similar to a game we are going to be talking about soon, Earth. Mm-hmm. Except this one is on Mars.
It
And
is
you're-
on Mars. You think there's a little head-to-head competition there?
Man, I think so. I personally find the games to be rather similar, but I find that I'm enjoying Terraforming Mars a little bit more because the theme of Terraforming Mars is just
It's more appealing to you.
it's more appealing to me as an engineer and someone who's really excited in, I guess, the space program as a whole. So this one hits home very nice.
Yeah, and this is something that we might say about Earth, but I think the theme comes across really well in the individual project cards. I think more thought went into these than probably what went into Earth, because as you're doing these, they all kind of make sense. They all have different tags on them, you know. So, for example, if something is going out into space, it probably has a titanium tag. You've got Mars tags, electric tags, plants, animal tags, all sorts of stuff like that, and they all seem to correlate with the actual project that's listed on there. And the actions kind of make sense. You know, a nuclear plant, for example, is going to give you money and it's going to increase your heat production. It makes sense.
It does.
And I think they kind of tailor it to it. And the good thing that I like about this one that I think is lacking a little bit in Earth is that some of these cards are just better than other ones.
Yes,
This one
they
right here
are.
that costs 30 is 5 heat production. But I think when
Wow.
you're... Yeah, that's a lot.
That's insane.
But it costs 30, so I think that there's a benefit here in that these have costs that are really small, like down to 0 and 1, all the way up to like 30 and 35. So you've got a wide range of things that you can build throughout the game. I think Earth's has too tight of a margin between what's good and what's better.
I think I'm with you on that one, and I think that card is also a great example because it is a titanium link to it as well. And as you increase your titanium production, you reduce the cost that you pay for that card by 3.
Yes, that is my strategy.
Which is great. And so when you want to play that card and you've got a couple of titanium production already, you could be getting that down to close to 20. Especially if you're taking the green action yourself, which has a bonus, or the green phase, development phase yourself, which has a bonus of paying 3 less for your green cards, which are, God, that's phenomenal. So you could
Yeah,
be playing
yeah.
you could be playing in the 20s or even in the teens for something that should have a power value of 30.
And I
which
think
is
that's where the
phenomenal.
creep of increasing your engine
Yeah.
really feels good in this game. When at the beginning of the game, let's say, because you have to make a really strange decision. Let's say you draw this card at the beginning, you're holding it, but can you just get rid of it for 3? Is it going to take too long until you actually build this? Will you draw some of these titanium cards? In other games, these kind of crowd up your hand, and you kind of can get rid of them in some scenarios. But for these, in Terraforming Mars, at any time you can get rid of it and get 3 money.
Yes.
And so there's always that decision of, do I hold it or do I get rid of it? And it's not just always in your hand. So it looks appealing, and maybe you draw 5 really, really good cards, but you're getting towards the end of the game. Are you really going to be able to play 5 more cards before it ends? Well, let me get rid of some and be able to play another card more quickly.
Yes.
So then my engine builds up more quickly. I like it in this game a lot.
I think so. How long do you believe that we should take to play this game?
What does the box say? It says something crazy. 60 minutes.
Six.
I think by our third game, when we were playing cards, I think 60 minutes is pretty good. I think that's a fair amount for people that know the game.
I think it's doable, but I think you have to know going in that when it's your first couple of times playing this game, which is something we experience even at two-player, it could take up to an hour and a half. And I think what brings that time value down to like a little under an hour for 2 players is knowing exactly how to end the game. Because something that I got tied up in doing was just playing all of my project cards because they were exciting. They've got actions. They give you bonus points. They give you 5 heat production if you get one of those.
Yeah.
It's exciting stuff. But the way to actually gain TR rating in this game and actually progress the game to its conclusion is by raising the temperature, raising the oxygen level, flipping ocean tiles, which generally have little to do with playing project cards. And that was what we thought, or at least I thought the engine building aspect is I got to play all these cards out of my hand.
Yes.
I want to take
it
the construction action. Yeah, I want to take the development action. Look at all these cards I have in front of my hand. And then the game ends and I've got 20 less points or so.
Yeah,
then,
you've got nothing to show for it. Yeah,
right.
And you brought up a good point, and we didn't talk about this, or I didn't talk about it in the overview, but I think we should probably go through how a turn is taken and the 5 phases. So I didn't talk about this, so let me add that here. There's 5 different phases, essentially actions that you can take in this game. And a kind of unique thing about this game that kind of keeps it moving is it takes the same approach that this old game Puerto Rico did. I think they started it way back in like 2004. Race for the Galaxy does it as well, where it's like a turn follow action. I don't know what you'd call it, but essentially of these 5, Cade and I, if it's a 2-player game, will both choose one secretly that we're going to play, and then we flip it up. So if I wanted to develop, which is playing a green project card in front of me, and Cade wanted to produce, well, he doesn't get to produce and I don't. Same way I don't just get to develop and he can't. We both get to take those actions. But whoever played the card gets a little added benefit. So like you were saying, for playing a green, if I were the one that played the green and we're doing the develop phase, I get a 3 MC Hammer discount on my projects. And that's really neat, you know? So we haven't played this with more than 2, but I think at 4, it's going to get even more crunchy because 4 things could potentially come up that you know you're going to have to do in this round, and they're in a specific order. You have to play your cards before you do actions, before you produce, before you draw cards. And so if you've got the money and someone played the green and the blue and the red, you have to decide, well, do I want to play the green or do I want to save my money for this next phase and play the blue and the red? So I think that would be cool once you start adding more people. But at 2, I think it was still good.
Yeah, at 2, you're kind of like the master of your own the domain and playing whatever you wanted to do. I want to develop, then I want to produce, then I want to go back to construction, but then I want to do an action. And anything you would do is just kind of an added bonus. One of the thoughts I have about the phases here, and I think this tends to more about a meta conversation about how to play the game and how to win. I feel like if the higher number you get on the phase chart, like if you want to play development, that's they call that the 1. That is better, and then if you're playing up to 5, they get worse and worse for you to play. And what I mean by that is, I don't want to waste my turn doing production, because when I produce, the bonus is 4 extra Miley Cyruses, which is nice. But towards the end of the game, you could be gaining 30 per production phase. Going from 30 to 34 is not that huge.
Yeah, not really.
But if I could be taking actions or playing more cards or researching to find more cards even and let you handle the wasted turn of production.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Then I'm feeling great. And that is where, and I feel the only player interaction component of this game comes in. Because my only strategy I had, I managed to develop one, was to see when you would want to produce and try to avoid producing up until that point. And in order to give myself at least some advantage of being able to do other actions while you were doing the production phase.
No, that makes sense. And I think in a 2-player game, that's a lot easier.
Yes.
But the higher the player count goes, you might almost be guaranteed to produce every single time. It's highly likely that someone will choose it.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be running low on mega credits, and they want to get mega credits back.
That's
you know,
true.
so someone might be doing it, and I think that's why they're phased this way, because obviously if someone does the production action, you need to have been able to plan for this round so that you're not getting your money and then you're able to play the card. So I think the order in which they've done these is really clever. Your greens, your blues, then your actions, then production, then draw more. I think the order of turns that you take is pretty clever.
Yes, and as we were discussing about the time frame of this game right before that is when you know how to finish the game. That's when you get it down to the 45 minutes, 60-minute mark. If you know how to finish the game and acquire TR, once you've got your engine built, all you want to do is increase temperature, increase oxygen, flip ocean tiles, because that's how you get your points. And there are some extra basic actions besides the phases that you can take that allow you to gain points. So as you're accumulating these MC towards the end of the game, instead of using them to play cards, you've already built your engine, just start doing those basic actions to get points. And that's how the game just accelerates to the end, if you ask me.
And I think kind of going along with that, there's this transition period, which I really like in this game, which I don't think they really have in Earth, is you want to produce the best engine up to a point. And like you said earlier, it teases you because you've got all these really good cards that you want to play, but if someone converts their engine to get them points quicker than you do, then you're falling behind. They're getting points, you're still unfortunately building your engine, and now you have to say, well, wait, I've got all these cards, they're getting points, I need to get points. They're getting all this terraform rating, I need to do this, so what am I doing wrong? And that timing that you have to get down feels really good. Unlike Earth, where I thought that a lot of it was luck based, in this one I feel like there's a deeper strategy, because the engine builds differently than an Earth. It's right in front of you to see exactly how much stuff you're getting, where your engine can be. So for example, if I'm at 8 heat, every time I produce, that's 1 point.
Yeah.
So I know that, all right, maybe I just want to stop at 8 heat. Why go for 9? What am I going to use that extra heat for? So getting your engine up to a point where you think it's going to be the most efficient use of getting points is really good. I love that in this game.
Yes, and that's when you start taking the later actions, like the action phase or the research phase, and instead you're not playing development cards or construction cards.
Right, yeah, you've already done that portion.
That part of the game is over. And I do feel like it ramps up really fast. And I think the better we got at understanding how the game worked, the faster our engine ramped up.
Yes.
Which is what made the game more enjoyable. The first game kind of dragged for me because we were playing for close to an hour and a half, and my engine was ramping up close to the whole game because I didn't understand how to end the game.
Yeah.
And that felt kind of slow and sad and disappointing. But when we played our game that ended in about 45 minutes, we ramped up our engines immediately, you and I. And then producing was fun. And then the whole game was fun. There were a couple of issues I had with that. Namely, it felt that if you got behind in the ramping up phase of your engine, you almost couldn't catch back up. Once I could see on your board that you had more MC production than me, more heat than me, you could draw cards, more plants, I was terrified to take the production action, even though I needed it in order to do things on my end. But I knew that if I took the production action, you're going to produce, you're going to get that 8 heat, you're going to turn that into a point, and there's no way to catch up. I feel like there needs to be, not needs to be, but there would be nice if there was a catch-up mechanic somewhere in the game. Maybe I'm not seeing it, but it felt like the first person to get off the start line with their engine had a clear path to victory in this game.
See, and maybe I'm misremembering which game that we're talking about, but I thought the opposite happened on the last game that we played. You were clearly ahead of me in terraform rating. You were getting more stuff at the end, and I think what triggered in my head, which when I started to write comments for this made me realize, wow, this is a lot deeper than I thought, is I saw that you were winning. I started to, not secretly, but like from under you a little bit, started doing actions with all my money instead of playing cards. I was like, all right, I know if we're going toe-to-toe on building our engine, you're going to win. Because like you said, you're getting more stuff.
Right.
So while you still probably had a few more cards that you thought looked juicy, I was like, all right, I'm going to sneak in here and I'm going to pay for some heat. And I'm going to raise the temperature and I'm going to raise the oxygen. And then over the next couple rounds, your differential of being like 8 in front of me, now we were tied. You know?
Yes.
And then there was... the end game scoring card that I got was just beautiful as well. So a lot of these will give you points at the end of the game, just based on the number that's there. But some of them will have a little asterisk, and they give you points depending on what you've done. If you built a lot of Earth tags, or if you've built just every 4 gives you a point. So you kind of have some goals to go for while you're playing. And one of them, I was like, oh, this is juicy.
What was it? I can't quite remember.
It was every time I raised the temperature, I put a cube on that card. So essentially, every time.
Was a point.
Yeah. So every time I raised the temperature, I was getting 2 points. So while you had a better, basically, production than I did in front of you, I was just secretly buying temperature. I was doing heat and doing money, and I was getting temperature on my standard actions. Which means every time I did that, I was getting double points. Oh, man, and I, like, barely crept in front of you. It was good, and I think it kind of solidifies what I said, is that there's just still good decisions, even in a game that's got a variety of cards, and what we criticize Earth for as being more luck-based. I don't know how they do it specifically, but somewhere in the design, whether it's being able to discard cards or it's the actual actions that you can take, it feels like you've got more decision space and more strategy in this game than you do with the other one. That's what it feels like.
That's interesting, because I still feel that they're pretty much even as far as the luck-based game goes. Because I felt that a lot in this game, and even the game that I managed to win between the two of us, my company that I started out with was based on drawing cards that had the Saturn affinity. And every Saturn card I played gave me a point. The only reason I won that game, where you almost caught back up to me, is I also managed to just draw a project card that had the exact same scoring mechanism.
So it was doubling?
Yeah, as my company. It was every Saturn card you play gets a VP. And I also, luckily, hit 6 to 7 Saturn cards in my hand that I could play, right? Because I would say it's probably close to 10% of the cards might be a Saturn card or an Earth card.
I don't know if they give you a percentage on here like they do in Earth.
No, I don't think they do, but it feels about that. Maybe it might be higher, but you're definitely hoping that you're going to be hitting Saturn cards as opposed to feeling guaranteed that you're going to hit them. And that kind of leads me into another minor complaint that I have with the game.
Well, can I talk about that real quick?
Yeah, oh yeah, sure.
Because I feel like, and maybe we won't come to a conclusion, but I feel like I still kind of disagree. One of the things that we talked about in our upcoming episode on Earth is when there is a scoring card that you can't get, it feels drastic. They have those global scoring objectives that could get you 15 points,
right.
Let's just say for pulling events. And if you don't pull them, that's 15 points that you're losing out on. I think, like, especially with the corporations here, they still seem minor enough. You know, in that game, you're playing up to a potential 200 and something, 300 points. But in this one, even though you started with the Corporation of Saturn, even if you didn't pull Saturn cards, I still think that there's ways to win. Like, I don't think it hinges on whether or not you pull Saturn cards if you can win.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think it hinged on that, but I was just saying that was the extra that managed to get me over the top to win that game.
Yeah, okay.
And without it hitting that project card, I would have lost. I would have been 6 less, and I would have been below you. But think about what you just kind of said there. 15 points in Earth is a similar percentage point to 6 in Terraforming Mars. Because here, a 50 is a good score. So if you're trying to get 200, 6 times 4 and roughly, do math, 24.
Yeah.
That's like a similar
The weight of
percentage.
points is
the
the same.
Similar percentage of points. I feel like it does matter almost as much as in Earth. But we might not get to a conclusion on this, and that's what makes the game fun. Because we can, at least what it's showing here in our discussion, is that there are multiple avenues you can take to try to win the game.
Yes.
Which is something I talk about in that Earth episode that I really enjoy, is how can you find a way to win the game? What method of playing the game is most enjoyable to you? Find it, and is it competitive? And if it is, well, that just makes the game even more fun. So it sounds like we have slightly different ways of playing the game, and we've both managed to find success, which is interesting.
Like, for example, I have not done a strategy of putting plants or animals on cards, but I know it's there, and it's got to be balanced. I mean, I don't think I've heard anything about it being unbalanced. But for example, if I draw 10 cards and I see some steel production, I'm like, I'm going for steel production.
Do you slam those? You have to.
You know? But in the last game that we played, I managed to squeak out a victory because I was doing 17 heat every time we produced. So every heat card, I was like, well, this is what I'm going to lean into this time. I do think, as far as strategy is concerned, you don't want to spread yourself thin. I think you need to lean into something a little bit. So, like, for example, I don't think I will do well if I have 3 heat, 2 plants, 10 gold. I think you almost do better if you have 30 gold, 0 heat, 0 plants. And because you can do more with it and you don't have to wait for multiple productions to use the resources that you're getting. Does that kind of make sense?
No, that makes sense. I mean, I haven't thought about it because when I was playing, I was definitely spreading myself thin. And now I'm interested to try it your way because I think that might be beneficial because, like you said, if you have 17 heat production, you can drop 2 points at the end of your turn after you produce.
I can prevent your heat from meaning anything if I raise the temperature before you get a chance to.
That's true.
Now, the 3 that you've put in there, let's just say, the 6 you've put in there compared to my 17, well, now you're losing out on all the cards that you used to build up your engine.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of the other things, too, is I really want to do this one, the titanium production, which is -3.
Yeah.
I want to try a strategy where all I do is go for that, and then I just do research until I find cards that cost 30, because the titanium ones are normally the higher cost value ones, and buy them for like 4 or 5, because I have such a heavy discount. I see that it goes up to like 29.
Yeah, there's no way you're getting up to 29, right? I mean, that's just absurd.
Space that they had on the board.
Yeah, just to make it reasonable, because you could, like you said, you got up to 17 heat, and I could see you getting up to 20 in the 20s. 30 seems absurd, but for MC, you're certainly getting up into the 20s, and you're going to have a large production value there. You mentioned the idea of wanting to draw cards to take advantage of that titanium boost that you had. That was what I was going to say is my next minor complaint with the game.
I think I know where you're going, and I might share your concern here.
Let's read what the research phase is. All players draw 2 cards and keep 1.
Yes.
So that's the basic. Everybody gets to do it if someone chose the research phase. So you're getting 1 card to your hand.
Yep.
Is that card good?
At least in this one, it gives you the opportunity of looking at multiple and choosing the one that works for you.
That's true.
Other games may not do that. It just says draw and put it into your hand. And if you don't have, for example, the mechanism here of being able to discard that card, it's not doing anything for you.
Right.
And you were going to say the second part, which I think elaborates on my point even further, but...
Right, so the bonus that you get if you're the one who chose research is you get to draw an additional 3 cards and keep 1. So it's basically draw 5, keep 2, which is not bad, but wasting your turn, in quotation marks, on the research phase gets you 2 cards. You can play those in a turn.
Yeah.
And you're back to you're not falling behind, but you're back to the same number of cards that you had in your hand, some of them being useful or not.
But is it wasting if, because in this game specifically, I can follow one of yours? If I know that you're going to do 1, 2, or 3, and I might want to, well, then instead of maybe picking the same one you did, that's a wasted action for sure. Because now I've used my turn to pick the same one that I figured you were going to use anyway, so I've wasted my turn. You were going to do it. So now it's like, it's not really wasted. I just get a benefit of being able to take the 5th action.
That's true. And I think this plays into whether or not you have 2 or 4 people at the table.
Yeah.
Because when we were playing, it's kind of a mind game.
It is.
Of
Yeah,
who's
I'm
going
like,
to play what.
what is he doing over there?
And when we would pick the same one, it was like, dang it. But if you had 4, and like you said, you might get 4 of the 5 every round, that could certainly be helpful. But in my example that I was given there, I was kind of in a world where my hand was full of cards that I was probably just going to trade for 3 MC anyway. So I have nothing to play. I'm in a position where I've ran out of playable cards and I'm just trying to gain them. And this is where I think there's a huge benefit of playing either development phase cards or construction phase cards that give you card production.
I was going to talk about that one too. It was a note that I had because I kind of thought, well, if you got the card production, then it essentially means that you don't have to pick number 5 anymore. You don't have to research to draw cards anymore.
Correct.
And I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but there's not many of those.
There are not.
I think I maybe got up to 1, 2 in all 3 games that we've played. I've never gotten more than 2 card production, project production, when taking the production action. But if you did it that way, then it is more luck than if you did 5, because you're only drawing the top ones off the deck.
True.
And those 2 may not benefit you. Maybe it's more beneficial to take the action number 5, draw 5, and keep the 2 best ones that fit the strategy that you've been developing.
And if you're picking 5, 2 are probably going to be beneficial for you.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're all kind of common cards. They're definitely unique because they're all different, but you know that they're not wildly different to where if you're playing Heat, that it's not going to be another 20 cards till you get another Heat card. I think they're pretty evenly spaced, and some of them are hybrid cards. They can give you plants, and they can give you heat, or some of them can give you money, and they can give you cards. And then the blue and the reds have passive effects, which we haven't really talked about.
No,
but
we haven't.
that also lets you kind of tweak your strategy as well, depending on how you want to play. I don't know too many of them off the top of my head, but there's some that definitely increase the research phase.
Yes.
So now instead of keeping 2, now you can keep 3, and those could even stack. So like depending on what you go, yeah, like for your last game, maybe research wasn't good because you had so many card production. But for me, if I had gotten blue cards and I was able to take the research one because it modified it in a better way, then maybe that's what I don't. There's just, as I'm talking about it, I realize there seems to be more to it than I first thought.
It goes deeper than we thought. There is one company that you can start with that allows you to draw an additional and keep an additional. Slam that any chance you get. And there are definitely a lot of cards that allow you to draw an extra, keep an extra. So that's usually how the mechanic works,
Yes,
and it's
yeah.
super rare for there to be one that increases your card production just straight up.
Yeah, I didn't see that many, which makes me wonder why that goes all the way up to 30. I can't imagine if that is true and you can get up to 30, I'm taking production every time.
Right.
Because at that point, I could just discard 20 of them and get 60 money. I mean, that's crazy.
Bill Gates over here.
I think because of how much this game can potentially ramp up, especially if there's like a meta at the table and everyone's playing slow and not racing for the points, then you could come up with some really crazy combos towards the end of the game. And it still kind of feels balanced. You know, you could choose to go drastically in one direction one time because of the cards that you're being dealt. So you're like, well, these are the cards that I've got. I'm going to lean into it. A little bit kind of like TFT. That's sort of luck-based, but there's some mitigation to that luck. And I think that this allows you to mitigate it more than other games that we've played that we maybe don't like as much. I don't know your rating yet, but that we maybe don't like as much as this one. So
Yeah, we'll get to my rating soon, but I did want to mention the company cards that you start with. You're dealt 2 and you get to pick one, so you don't just get to choose from the entire collection of maybe 16 or so cards that they've got here. And what they do is they give you a different starting ability. They tell you how much MC you start with off the bat, and they're kind of balanced in the sense that some of them can be in the 20s, start with 27 MC, for example, but you might get, you start with a plant production, which could be huge for you. But sometimes they've got some in here that are up, start with 51, but you don't get a bonus with production. So you got to kind of play in that game of how do you want to, what direction you want to take. And when you start the game, you get dealt 10 cards, and you can decide to discard some and draw new ones based on the company you think you want to pick.
So before you pick it, I think it might be 8. I could be wrong. But yeah, before you pick it too. So it allows you to, like I said, it allows you to mitigate it a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not just, oh, how do I make these 8 cards work with these 2? It gives you a chance to try again. You know, do you want to take the chance of getting rid of 4 to draw 4 more? And it's almost like a little risk. Are they going to be worse than the ones I'm discarding? So should I keep a couple? I like that decision at the beginning.
And you can always just chuck them in the bin for 3 extra MC, which is nice. Man, what else do we want to... Oh, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I've got something. One of the things that I thought was good in other types of games and good in the original Terraforming Mars, and I'm sad that it wasn't in this one, were the global objectives. I think they called it global, either milestones, projects, something like that, where you're racing to be the first one there, kind of like Earth does it. Because that, at least, if it's balanced, gives you the opportunity to have a little bit more interaction. You know, who's going to race to this one? Are they variable at the beginning? Now, I do know that there's expansions to the Ares expedition, and they've added that back in. And I think they added it in a case where it's variable each time. Depending on how the game's kind of balanced, that could be hit or miss because, you know, like you've said when we talked about Earth, if you get the cards to get one of those before somebody else, then it almost seems unfair. But I think just the way that this one plays, it might be less lucky. You know?
I definitely came into this one feeling it was as luck based as previous tableau builders we've talked about. The more you and I discuss it, the less I feel that way, and it makes me excited to try it again. To be completely honest with you.
Good thing about trying it again is we can get it in 45 minutes.
Now we can, yeah.
Like easy to set up, easy to get to the table, and you feel like you can do a different strategy every time, and it's not cumbersome to do it. You know, like if I get at least a few Earth cards or a few Saturn cards that I want to try and lean into it, I think there's ways, even if I don't draw them on the next 5, I think there's ways for me to cycle through it and get it into my hand if I really wanted to. Now, maybe I might be losing out on some points because I'm trying too hard and I'm forcing something that maybe I shouldn't, kind of like TFT again, when you want to hard force a strategy, but you've got to kind of play to what you're dealt.
Yeah, you do.
There's that mix of luck and strategy that I feel is missing in other games, but I think it kind of works in this one.
I agree. One last thing I wanted to touch on was there is a little bit of like tech paths in this game where some cards will have requirements for you to be able to play them. So not all project cards can just be played immediately.
I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, so the example of one I'm looking at here is it's a science card, I believe, is like the tech path it has. And there are a few cards that you can get in your hand even as early as the beginning of the game when you draw them that can be as many as you need 5 science cards down in your tableau before you can play the card. And one of the things I noticed about that specific one that I had the last time we played was the action wasn't any more spectacular than I thought some of the actions on the project cards that have no requirements.
Okay.
And so I would have to not waste, but I'd have to plan and strategize playing science cards in order to play this card that is just maybe mildly better than some of the other ones I'm playing. And then at the same time, one of my complaints about the game is the luck aspect of just drawing cards. You're not guaranteed to get 5 science cards. They have a similar hit rate, I would say, as the Saturn ones in like the 10 to 20% range of the total deck. To where you're not guaranteed at the beginning of the game, I'll be able to play this at some point. And so when I saw that one, I looked at it and I was like, man, it's kind of cool and it would be nice, but 3MC is just worth it.
Yeah, it's better.
Done.
Yeah.
You know, and that felt bad because that should feel like a power card. Like almost like I should save this in my hand till the end of the game because this is going to blow people's minds and it's going to either
now you could have chosen to
solidify
save
a win.
it.
That's true. It's true.
And I looked at a couple. Yeah, I don't think, here's one that has 3 and this one has 3. I don't think the passive abilities that you get are really better, which kind of sucks.
Right.
I agree. But they do give you 2 points. And I don't think there's many of them that give you 2 points because 2 is a hefty weight of points like we had talked about.
I think that's the highest you can get from a project.
Just from one? Okay.
Most of the time they're 0, sometimes they're 1, rarely they're 2. And then they've got the ones that you mentioned with the asterisks that are dependent upon end game scoring. They're neat though. One day I want to be able to play a 5 cost.
I like, because I completely forgot about the prerequisites, but I'm glad you brought it up because I like that there is this kind of tug of war that you have to play of, all right, I need to get the credits, but then I also need to make sure I have the requirements. I've got 2 of the 3 that I need to play this card. Do I keep this one and try and find another one, or do I get rid of it and play this other card now instead of wasting turns? So I still feel like there's some decisions to be made. I mean, even between turns, and I like it.
It's growing on me too. I will admit during the podcast. Let's give it our ratings then, Dan. What you got?
So initially, I was kind of thinking what you were is. There's way too many cards. I'm getting cards in my hand. I'm playing them in front of me. The game's sort of... I'm co-piloting. I'm not really piloting the game. And so as I was playing, it wasn't clicking. But a few more plays and noticing the types of cards that I'm getting into my hand. And then that, at least for me, it clicked when I said I need to pivot from building up my production to trying to score points and close out the game.
You have enough production. Stop producing more.
Stop it. Stop it. The urge and the temptation is there to do it because it's cool. I think that the engine building games are popular for a reason, and it's almost like playing an RPG or something like that. At the beginning of this game, you are a level 1 mage with no wand and no spells in your spell book. But by the end, you're casting fireballs and you're getting rid of the same people you fought at the beginning. You snap your fingers and they're all dead. So I love that there is like that power creep that kind of develops over such a short game.
Yes, a very short game, but you can get it up.
Yeah.
Really high.
So I think it's really good. I don't think it's great. I do think that it lacks some player interaction. I would like to do that. Otherwise, same thing I criticized some other ones for. I'm doing my own little puzzle, and then we all kind of look up at the end of the game and see who has it. But there is, while it's not direct player interaction, seeing where the temperature is and how can I increase it before you can, or that little kind of mind game that we have to play choosing between the 5 phases, I think is enough, but I just want a little bit more to kind of push it over the edge. I think I'd give this one a solid 8, maybe to an 8.5. I think it has the potential to go higher as I learn the game more, and then especially with expansions, if they add in a few extra things that maybe I don't realize are missing.
Like the global objectives that you mentioned earlier.
Global objectives. And if they can find a way to tweak it to where it's either variable or you really have a commanding presence or agency on, yes, I can get that, and it's not just based on the cards that I've drawn, I think that'll definitely bump it up for me. I just don't think there's enough depth to really push it beyond 8.5 or a 9. It's still kind of simple, still kind of easy, but I think there's a little bit more to explore here. So 8 solid with the potential to go up in the future.
Nice. I was going to have it as low as a 4. A bit above my rating for Earth because I enjoyed the theme of it a lot more than I did of Earth. But the more we talked about it during this podcast, I am just itching to get back and give it another shot based on the strategies that you shared with me that make it seem a little bit more complex than I maybe had originally thought, and also give me some other game mechanics that I didn't exploit or try to take advantage of in my first couple of playthroughs. So I want to give it a 6 with the potential to go a lot higher after a couple more plays, because I do enjoy the ramp up of this game. The ramp up nature of this game is fantastic. You feel like a powerhouse, but I did that a little bit too much in my first games. I need to tone that back and start shooting for points, which could also feel satisfactory. So I'll give it a 6 for now, with an asterisk behind it that it could increase later.
It still seems kind of low.
Well,
But
the way I'm considering it is a 5 is baseline. 5 is like a middle of the road game. So this is above average.
Yeah,
It's above average game for me, but it's not approaching like the pinnacle of a Tableau builder, or maybe an engine builder in this case. I would really like to find, and maybe you guys can help us out with this,
Please.
An engine builder or a Tableau builder that has reduced the luck aspect to almost 0. Because I want to get away from it.
Well, so that's what I was going to ask you is the mechanism in general of Tableau Builder. I wonder if, at least in yours or even with my standards, if a game like that could even be a 10. Does a Tableau Builder have enough depth as a mechanism to even get up to kind of a perfect or a near perfect or just a really great game rating? And I wonder if it does or not, because a game that you and I reviewed before, Dune Imperium, is one of our favorites. And I think so it mixes two things. It mixes deck building and it mixes worker placement. I don't think there's a strictly deck building game that I would give a 10 to, no matter how good it is. I think you need to add in some additional complexity to it to give it legs to stand on in order for it to continue to grow. So I'm wondering what that might be for a Tableau builder in your eyes. Like, what other things can you add to really make it a good game?
Well, I don't necessarily know if it needs to add other types of games into its repertoire, like worker placement or some other type of strategy game. Reducing the luck element is something I don't like in games at all. I want it to be my fault that I lost, and I want so that I can learn and get better. And I think that maybe I just have to play more of them to find out, which is not the worst problem in the world to have.
No,
to just play more Tableau builders and more engine builders and see the ones that I like the best and see if they exist out there.
So I do have a suggestion on something that we could play then, because I think the mechanism of Tableau building, especially when you've got huge deck, there's always going to be some luck in there. I don't think you can completely mitigate it. But there is a game that I told you we should play, and I wonder if people would agree with this. Raise Arcana,
Yes.
I
You
think,
mentioned that.
will scratch that itch that you're looking for.
That's great.
Small deck of cards. You basically have, let's just say 8. I can't remember exactly what it is, and you're trying to find the best way to use those 8 to put them in front of you. I think that would be something that you'd like, just based on what I'm hearing on the downfalls that you don't like with engine builders and tableau builders right now.
Well, here's an example of something that I like, and I don't know if it's technically a tableau builder, but I think it's Everdell, correct? Where you're
Yes.
where you're building buildings, and you place animals into those buildings. And in that game, you're building a tableau, but it felt easy. I don't know if easy is the right word, but it felt manageable to pair them up, which is where the power was, pairing the building
Yes.
with the animal. And we've played that one a few times, and maybe we can play it some more. That
I'd love to, because I'd love to get your thoughts on that one.
I had a great time playing that one because accomplishing that pairing is where, for me, the fun was, and it felt easy to do. And that's a tableau builder, I think, right?
Well, I think the thing that mitigates the luck in that one, and I think maybe a reason why you might like it, is that there is a I don't know what you'd call it, a market, basically.
Yes.
Everyone can buy from it. So it's not just on my turn, am I drawing a card that helps me? Everyone can see it, and if there's a good card, you know everyone's gunning for it.
Correct.
So you have a strategy to get that before someone else does, and it's not just let me draw it off the top and see if I get lucky. So maybe a tableau builder with more of a market.
Yeah. Because
Like
that offers some player interaction.
Yeah,
Because you're
yeah.
looking at other people's tableau and you're going, which cards do they need? I don't want it to come down to a turn-based system where they're going to pick it up before me, because that sucks. So you're watching what they're going, you go, well, I can do these two because they don't seem interested in it. Maybe that is part of it. But I do believe, does Everdell have a worker placement
It does.
component to
That's
it?
what I was saying.
Well,
It
so
adds
see,
it.
you know.
Okay.
I said maybe it doesn't need worker placement, but maybe it does.
Yeah, I think we need to add that one too. There's so many
Okay.
games to get to, and we're just now blooming and blossoming into this channel and into this podcast that I'm
Yes.
excited to get our feedback and our opinion, and yours especially, because it kind of helps me understand what I like about games too when we play them and have more in-depth conversations about it. So I'm excited. Hopefully we can continue to do this for a while.
I could not agree more, Daniel. Hearing your opinions really helps me. It's a perfect example. Understand games a little bit better and make me more interested in them. So this was a great pod, my dude. That's it. That wraps it up for us today, guys. Thank you so much for listening and for watching on YouTube if you're there. Danny, where can the people find us?
They can find us on YouTube. That's going to be the main place where we're going to be uploading everything. We're going to get some audio versions as well to maybe put on Spotify or some other podcast apps. But we're going to be doing other types of videos as well. Mainly, they're going to be these long format deep dives into games that we've recently played. We try to get 3 or 4 plays under our belt. But we might do some other ones, some lists, some playthroughs, some live streams, something like that. So if we get the support and if people are interested, we'd love to do that.
Recommend some games to us, guys. Thank you so much
Please.
for listening.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, we're playing Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. Sydney Engelstein, Jacob Frixell.
All right. Well, good podcast.